Hi, my name is Dr. John Douillard, and welcome to LifeSpa.com, where we prove the ancient medical wisdom of Ayurveda with modern science. And today I want to talk about an aspect of the Vedas called Dhanurveda. Dhanurveda is the pure knowledge, Veda means truth, right? Pure knowledge of the bow, Dhanurasana, the bow asana. And it's the Veda of transformation, the knowledge of transformation. Oftentimes in India used as the Veda of warring techniques and warring strategies. But the war that they were originally talking about in Vedic times was the war, the battle that takes place right up here in our own head. The battle between the truth and non-truth. You could say fake news and real news. It's, in Ayurveda, there's an aspect of ourself called the Anandamaya Kosha. And the Anandamaya Kosha is the bliss sheath, the truth of us. Think of it residing in your heart, that pure, delicate, vulnerable, powerful part of ourself, like the sun. It just shines, it gives love and warmth to everything, gets nothing in return. Then we have the Manomaya Kosha, the mind, which is all about return on investment. Everything I do for you, I want to get something in return. If I give you a present, I want to get you to tell me that you love it and it feels really good. If I buy you a birthday present for $20 and you go to the dollar store for me and get me one for $1, my mind quickly calculates in my Manomaya Kosha that you owe me $19 and I'm feeling depleted. So I need to figure out a way to get this even again. The mind is all about making it even. Everything has a return on investment, right? So as a result of getting hurt and getting dollar store birthday presents forever, we start to create a new version of ourselves. A personality that we think will get a better return on investment. Maybe you became a pleaser or a perfectionist or a control freak. That projection we create as young kids, we project it on the screen for our entire life. And that's the fake news. The part of us that's not actually real. So Ayurveda said that there's a battle that takes place called the Great Barrier Sheath between the mind and your truth. And that's where this battle takes place. And that's where Dhanurveda takes place. Dhanurveda is the Veda of transformation. The whole point of Ayurveda was to bring the body and the prana, life force, and the mind into balance, silence it, chill it out a little bit. So we have the awareness and the clarity to see what we have created and projected on the screen as patterns of behaviors and belief systems that aren't serving us any longer. And then once we become aware of the blocks and the emotional constrictions at this great barrier sheath between your mind and your heart, we can then take action to free ourselves from those old patterns of behavior. That is one aspect of Dhanurveda. So think the rules of Dhanurveda are very simple. And it really boils down to 4 words. In India, Sanskrit, it's Yogastha Kuru Kamani, which means establish being and then perform action. So think of a hurricane. The bigger the eye, the more powerful the wind, right? The bigger the calm, the being, the silence, the more powerful the wind, right? Think of a sun, sit still and planets spin around it, life forms, all these crazy things around the silent center. A nucleus of an atom, still in the center, electrons, protons spinning around it, things spinning around a silent center. That's the microcosm of us as well as the macrocosm, right? So that's Dhanurveda, to somehow mimic this macrocosm from this with accessing and tuning into the microcosm. So we do the big by totally understanding the little. And again, once again, we realize that in Ayurveda, the most subtle aspects of Ayurveda are the most powerful. That's like such a cool thing. So one of my favorite analogies of Ayurveda, of Dhanurveda, is the bow. It's the bow asana. So when you think about pulling back the bow, right? If you're pulling back the bow, then every little movement that I have here is going to have a completely distorted effect of the flight of my arrow, right? So if I pull the back and I hold it an established being in perfect silence here, and then I release the arrow from that place of deep silence, I have a transformational action step. So the whole idea of Dhanurveda is to pull back the bow, create an internal experience of deep silence that we do in like meditation, yoga, breathing, but then you must release the arrow. You must shoot the arrow. You must take action in your life to free yourself from those old patterns of behavior. And this is the part of yoga and Ayurveda and meditation and that I have watched for my whole career, for more than almost 40 years now, that we're not being guided to take the action step, which is the most important part of meditation. You meditate, you do yoga, you breathe, you still your mind. But then once you have the awareness and clarity of that deep state of silence, you must take action to free yourself from those old patterns. And that is Dhanurved, to be completely established in the silence and therefore completely established in the activity. So both aspects of dynamic activity and silence coexist, which in my first book, I have to say, I've been into this for a very long time. My first book, Body, Mind, Sport, was all about trying to accomplish the runner's high, the zone, how athletes would say my best race is my easiest race. I was passionate about that. And when we did research on brainwave studies, we found that when people breathe through their nose and exercise, their brains go into a meditative calm. Versus if they're breathing through their mouth, they go into a fight or flight, bear in the woods, panic state, right? But we also found that when you're exercising, through breathing through your nose, creating a neurological calm, that the fight or flight nervous system, which usually goes to 100% when exercise, and the parasympathetic system goes to 0, that the two opposite nervous systems coexisted. So what we had was, we had the fight or flight system, the active dynamic activity system, and the parasympathetic system, which usually zeroes out when you exercise, coexisting. And that's the goal, is to have the coexistence of opposites. That is what Dhanurved is. So how do we apply that? Many ways, right? Into your yoga practice. We apply it by, thinking about breathing deeply through your nose while you're in yoga, using yoga as the dynamic form while your breathing is setting up a neurological calm. Again, the coexistence of opposites. How do we do it in our relationships? We have patterns of behavior we created in our lives that we engage in to make people happy. If I act this way with that person, they're going to like me. If I act this way with that person, they're going to like me, approve of me, think I'm wonderful. If I dress like this, I'm going to look good, they're going to like me. So our mind has convinced us that if we engage in behavior that makes them like us, we're going to feel good. But that's a temporary situation. So dopamine, reward chemistry, which is fleeting. Ayurveda says that battle that takes place right at the barrier, the great barrier sheath between the mind and the heart, that's where the battle takes place, to realize, wow, that's a fleeting experience. What if I took the risk to open the delicate petals of my flower and let something more truthful out? Let the delicate version of me, the sensitive version of me, and even the most powerful version of me out. Letting myself express the love and appreciation I have for another person, as opposed to feeling that I need the love and attention. Why don't we begin to try to be the love and attention, because that is in fact our true nature. I've written a ton about this on my website, on Dhanurved, in the emotional health section of my website, and you could read more about Dhanurved. But think of Dhanurved as the Bhavasana that is there for internal transformation. So you can transform yourself on the mat, you can transform yourself in your life, and if you use nose breathing, you can transform it on the treadmill. And I've written a ton about this, and even, gosh, it goes on and on, right? Thinking about how we live our life in sync with the natural circadian rhythms. Ayurveda 101. Living in sync with the cycles allows your body to go in rhythm downstream with the current, not against the grain. Again, that creates calm, awareness, silence. And once we have that awareness, you can then take action based on that awareness. That is transformational, and that is Dhanurved. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard.